By way of introduction, my name is Sam Kibara. I am a husband to my wife Beatrice. We've been married for 19 years now. We have two daughters. Our daughters are both teenagers, so we are parenting. By profession, I am a risk management consultant and also an entrepreneur. So I do some business involving cars and transport, and I also do real estate among a few other enterprises. My journey of serving has been consistent with us. Initially we were serving in the vineyard. We have done we've always been drawn to family ministries, and at some point we became it became clear to us that God wanted us to serve in one ministry together, and we took Leah Ministry as one of our, it's our family mission to be involved in Leah Ministry. So that's where we have been serving as a family. Interesting. Let me speak about my area aspects of life. When I started working, as a professional, I wasn't straight from college, very ambitious and everything. I was not born again then, so I was going straight for the stuff just like anybody else, and wanting growth in career, wanting growth in resources and material and everything. But my turning point happened in year 2000, around after about 3 years of working. And around that time I had been working with some two gentlemen. Both of them were born again, and they were senior. I had done engineering in college, so they were both senior engineers, but we were working in an insurance setup, and both of them left for better opportunities. Through this whole time, I had always felt like I'm not the job I'm doing is lesser than what I'm capable of, and I think there was pride in me and everything. But then the guys who seemed like they were deploying themselves into this whole thing were able to secure opportunities outside and get to better opportunities, and I was left. And that was a turning point for me, because I felt God was speaking to me in a sense of work unto me, that I should stop using my own self, knowing that thinking I'm good than anybody else, to work. And that's how I made a decision that I would never apply for a job will come looking for me. And believe it or not, anytime I would be asked to apply for a job, I would know that's a disqualification. I don't want that job. And the next job that came with an international organization, it's a job that came looking for me. I never wrote an application form, and I was so sure God had now called me into the work. So from there, for me, I have tried as much as possible to live the word in Ecclesiastes that says, don't work unto human masters, but work unto God. God is the one who sees. So even if I feel I'm not being rewarded adequately, that has been my drift. Like I mentioned earlier, along the way when I was doing my professional life, I started my car business. Now this was reselling of cars, importation of cars, and that's an area where your Christian values would ordinarily be tested. And a few times in the car business, especially area, there was a lot of people faking a lot of things. It's like anytime you're trying to buy a motor vehicle, people would try to hide mileage, people would try to hide accidents and everything. And I remember around that time, I was among the first people who started selling automatic cars. people would buy automatic vehicles because they were cheaper and change into manual vehicles because they were the ones that were selling. And I just said, this is not possible. I mean, the technology is changing. So I began saying we will sell, and I will try and educate people on automatics. And so I was among the first people who sold automatic for automatic. And that you will be tested, because sometimes you may not sell as much as you want. The second part is when I now became a consultant. I stopped employment and became a consultant in my line of risk management consulting, and employing myself in the public sector, where it is so obvious that it is required for you to give a kickback. And I remember one time it was a very lucrative a contract by one of the utility companies, and they called us to a meeting and they said, look, everything is here, but we need to discuss how you need to give us this kickback for us to be able to issue you a letter of award. And I remember feeling in my heart like I should consider this, but then I thought, how will I stand and feel confident that God was in this? And I remember actually saying, unfortunately, we are not able to give this because it was not a consideration and because of our faith. And they actually decided to cancel the contract, and it was painful. But what is interesting is that God brought much more. We never felt a lack simply because some people had decided to cancel some contracts simply because we had refused to give back something. So that's one area that I can say my faith was really challenged, but it is a consistent game. There will always be things that are coming. You cannot have it smooth in your both professional and even business life. There will always be some space that you're being tested on your values. I'll give you a current ongoing. In the real estate business, you have someone who is falling behind in paying of rent, and you feel you should extend grace, but on the other hand, it's a business. So that conversation leads to a space that you're feeling very uncomfortable and very you almost feel like I need to drop this Christianist thing. I'm not being good to this person is not really helping. But then you remember that it is about grace, and grace is not about what the other person does. So the issue of Christian values is, yes, there are many stories I can give you about it, but it is a consistent journey that as a Christian with certain values that are contrary to what the worldview and the business field is about will continually be tested. But then the good thing is that there is always a way out. It's never, a bright corner as such. Yeah. So, as an entrepreneur, my faith has really influenced how you do everything. Because one of the things I have learned with time is that there is no business decision that is aside of a spiritual decision. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is an example of the real estate. You have perhaps developed some apartments, and it has reached a point where now you need to bring in tenants. You realize that there is nothing like I just need to put nice advertisements and everything. There's a place of prayer. There's a place of asking God, I want you to bring your people of choice. I want you to help me become a kingdom channel even in this business, even as a landlord or even as a property manager. I want you to help me, that people will see more of God in me and how I'm dealing with them, as opposed to just saying we are here. And a few times we had an interesting aspect where when the fundis who are being part of the development and contractors were overheard saying that, in this plot, it's not like any one of those plots where you do anything you want. There is a quietness and a peace around here that even as when we come here, if we feel we need to, like even sometimes you want to even do like smoking, they feel they want to go out of the compound and do the smoking. So it's been interesting. I mean, I've had instances even in vehicles where you almost sold a car to someone, then at the last minute they go quiet, so you don't know whether they were whatever, and you're a bit disappointed, only for someone to come down the road and even offer more money and actually offer to buy it off, and you realize it was actually God holding you to work on this. So I feel my business decisions have almost become consistent. Even when things don't go the way I would want them to go, or the way as a business person per se you would want things to go. You want to make a sale, you want to make money here, you want to do these things, you don't want losses. But even when there is a loss situation, or a situation that I would call a curveball, which is not consistent with what you would have expected, I feel that I have more often I get to the space where I'm able to say there must be something in it that God wants to either teach me or take me through for me to learn in this situation. And so I've learned to integrate my decision making, even at business, with my faith, and sometimes even hold back to just say, God, what are you really saying in this? And that has proved to be helpful to me, and has opened doors that I never knew would actually be opened, and I thank God for that. My serving in different spaces, especially in the area that I spoke about, for about 15 years now, we have really been heavy on parenting. I can tell you many stories about going to different, we have gone to Presbyterian, we have gone to Anglican, we have gone to different Mavuno campuses, Nairobi Chapel, and we have done 2 international mission trips to DRC to launch Lair in French. And all those, they have been self-sponsored. We have been able to, God has enabled us to be able to take those, ministry engagements without having to look at them from an income perspective. We say, even to date, if a Christian organization or anybody comes requesting, because sometimes we get requests even from private schools to come and talk about parenting, and to talk to parents about how they need to engage and increase their contact time with their children, as a way of just empowering and making the whole parenting journey more a better way even for the school. We resolved that we will not charge. We will actually, we are open to gifting, whatever it is, so we don't put a price tag. That is very different from the way I do it in the consulting business. But something very interesting has also happened in that journey, that as we have continued offering ourselves, on my consulting business, I have seen a growth that is unprecedented, a growth that is not almost explainable, in the sense of I have never lacked. And because I'm passionate about kingdom finances, economic empowerment, and things like that, I have realized that God can open floodgates. And what he has said, he has not said work hard so that I can open the floodgates. What he has said is that be faithful. So he has given a totally different set of things that as Christians we need to do. And as we do that, then he is going to open floodgates. And I can confidently say that I have experienced God's floodgates in my business line. And it is more not when I look at it keenly, it's not that I did the best advertisements, I have the best website, I am the best consultant, everything, but I can clearly say that I can see the hand of God in this. An interesting part is just this last year, a past year I was invited to give a talk on finances, which is more like on the kingdom side. And I was, but this was an NGO, and it is the second time they have invited me to give that kind of a talk to their people on how they need to manage their personal finances and just empower themselves. And what was really interesting in that is that when I had not signed the contract, like, because it was just a talk. So, and in previously we had done, actually this was the third, we had done two. So we knew how much they would pay me and all that. But this time around, this last time, when we had the conversation, they came through and actually asked me to sign. So I signed without looking, but then the guy told me, have you read? They said, oops, I need to read. When I read, I realized they had doubled my allowance, whatever they had said. And I clearly, in fact, when I came home, I told my wife, this can only be God, because I had even signed, I didn't even know what this was all about. And in many other instances, I can share that God does not seem, he's not working on human ways, where he says advertise more, of course these things are important, but God is also able to open floodgates. So that has really increased our resolve. So anytime we see something opening up, my wife is very keen to remind me, can we continue? Let's look for more opportunities to serve God, because it is God who is actually opening this floodgate for us. So it may sound like it's a cliche where I'm saying work comes almost supernaturally, but we have realized that there is a connection of being faithful and how God opens floodgates. So that is a connection that we have enjoyed and seen God's hand in. Yes, so that's what I would mention. Very good question. Balancing. I would say this. I would say one, at some point, it was very clear that we were everywhere and becoming not as impactful as we would have wanted. And on the door side, we were becoming very, even on Mizizi side, there were a few things we would do on door side. And so the number one thing we did to help us to balance between ministry and business is to have some boundaries. What do I mean by boundaries? Boundaries mean that you now know what you need to go for. You know what you need, you can say yes, and what you need, you can say no. So one of the things we did was actually to say that of all ministry opportunities, the number one thing will be anything to do with parenting. Whenever time allows, we will present ourselves. So if you presented me a financial conversation and a parenting conversation, I will definitely go with the parenting conversation. Now, as God would have it, most of these ministry opportunities or engagements happen over the weekends, and the work engagements happen in the course of the week. Now, when I became self-employed, and my wife has been self-employed for the longest time, then that means that I've almost, for the last few years, almost consistently kept Monday as my easy day whenever I have a busy weekend coming over. So what balance God has allowed us to do is, one, we are very clear on what we want to get involved in, and we have no problem saying no, that does not, I don't think I'll be able to come up with that. So to speak, just because it's ministry, it does not mean that you have to respond to it. Even this particular month, I have had an invitation to speak at a father-daughter thing, but I'm also engaged with preaching the whole month. So I gradually said, because I am already on this, I am not able to respond to this, even though I feel this would have been a good thing for me to respond to, but I'm not able. So just having some certain health boundaries, or knowing that you're not responding to everything, but being able to see what you should and you should not, then helps a bit, and knowing what your mission is in terms of the kingdom, so that then you're not feeling like you need to almost please God by being in everything, responding to everything. I think even Jesus did not sort out everything. I mean, he did not respond to everything. In fact, there were spaces where he would even tell his disciples, let the dead bury their dead. I mean, so there was a bit of some boundaries. So establishing health boundaries, and not being, if I get to a space, I'm able to say, allow me to decline this one for now. It is not, I am fully sold to it, but allow me. Even certain aspects, I've been approached even to offer leadership, even in our church here. And when I look at how things are, I'm able to say, I do feel this is a good thing, but I don't feel I have the proper fit for this. So allow me not to allow someone else, because I believe kingdom, God has given enough workers in the kingdom. They are just seated, so we can actually give more people opportunities to rise up and be involved. And with that, you maintain a good balance that allows you to be able to be in both and be effective. Yeah. That's a good one. I keep saying, interestingly, that if you looked keenly at the things that we talk about in business, and the things that the Christian values, like even when you look at the 10 commandments and things like that, you realize that there is a lot of convergence in both. It's only that in one, you reference God and as the source of our everything, and the other one is just general. So a few things that the world of business is very non-compromising on is, one, it's I want to call it dependability, integrity, people knowing that they can trust, they can, like what I see is I can vouch for it. That's a key thing, that people don't want to do business with people who they are not sure that this is what you get. Sometimes there may have been, you for example, I will tell you, you can go into a contract and you realize that what the client needs is much more than what you actually quoted. How do you go about that? Do you abandon? Do you negotiate? How do you, I mean, are you, at what point are you? And that ties in with honesty. So honesty, integrity, consistency, all speak to dependability. That if I talked to Paul, am I, when we agree that we meet at 8, can I be sure, or do I have to go, hey, let me be there? There is no additional explanation. When you have people can count on your word, people can know that they can. This is something they can depend on. I think that whether you are on the Christian side and on the business side, it matters. And I have seen, even in our ministry offering, I have seen people coming back when we have done a layer season and say that the thing that hit them most was that every single day when they came in, they met that we had prepared and we were ready for them. And there's no one time when they came and they found that, so it was consistent. There was a sense of excellence. There was they knew that if we come, we'll meet someone who ready for us in this for the whole 10 weeks. And you could tell that that's what spoke to them. So you can imagine there were so many other lessons in terms of parenting, but what spoke to them more. And there are people who have responded to even serving because of, if that's what it means, if it means even using our resources, because that's what we have decided. We have at one point we have we offer our things. I mean, I come with my own equipment. I come with my own. My wife sometimes supplements even the snacks that are offered. Things like that. Not counting, but just wanting to present and to be excellent before God. So those values on the business side also appeal. When people come for a seminar, when people are buying something from you, and when they come to you, they realize you were actually waiting for me. When I walked through this door, I was so sure that I am being waited for, and the place is ready. If I came in and I'm like, these guys are saying, oh, where is the other third right? Things like that. Then one of the things that would happen is that my expectations would go down in terms of everything else. But when there's readiness, there's dependency, there's consistency, there's that whole thing about integrity becomes big. And that is something that I've seen consistent in both the business world, leadership forums, and even on the Christian side, whatever. Unfortunately, I must add this, that on the Christian side, sometimes we find that because it is faith, we can always compromise on these things and it will pass. And for me, one of the lessons I've learned, that even when it is on the Christian side, that is when we need to even stick it higher. If it is timekeeping, we need to even be better timekeepers on the Christian side than even on the business side. So if we already have this standard on business, then we need to even have a higher standard on the Christian side. And that way we will represent God better than even in the other spaces. Definitely. I would say that there are certain leaders along the way that have sharpened my being sold to both entrepreneurial business and also on the spiritual kingdom side. And I would say that when I got saved, I joined Nairobi Chapel. By then there was no Mavuno. So I joined Nairobi Chapel. We were meeting right opposite at Mamraka Hill Chapel here. And Bishop Oscar Mureu, who is the father of all this movement, was very instrumental in my discipleship, and also in picking a few things. And I have watched a bishop and his life until today, including this week. I was in a space where I interacted with a bit of his legacy, and he's one man who has really shaped the way I've done and he was very even as we're growing. One of the things that Nairobi Chapel did, which Mavuno still does, is the fact that it was a church that was run like a corporate. And that by itself became attractive even to me. That's why I moved from whatever church. For me, I wanted a church that was being run almost, there's no difference between my working life and my church life. If you say you are starting at 10, you start at 10, you finish at this time. And that really was attractive to me. So when we moved to Mavuno, Pastor M has been very instrumental. And I think what Pastor M built on Bishop Mureu was the fact of really now coming out, especially on financial, and making me not apologetic about going full throttle in the business world, whilst keeping my spiritual standpoint. And then along the way, of course, there are other people that I've seen that have been able to thrive on both. I remember one time TD Jakes came to the country and he brought with him 50 millionaires from the US. And one of the things, he's the first person I had talk about strategic partnerships. And he said, the future is in strategic partnerships. Don't just think about you and what you do as a small, think about strategic partnerships. And I think that has come to pass. And the other thing he mentioned, because by then we still had Hotel Intercontinental. And one of the forums he said, I still have not felt like Kenyan business people, because it was a business people forum and I paid for it, said, I still feel you have not given me opportunities to spend the dollars I brought. And so we were asking, so what do you mean by that? He said, nobody told me there was a beach that was just about an hour away from me, that I could go and enjoy a different weather and all that. So as I'm walking through this hotel, nothing told me that there is actually a beach called Mombasa that I could actually duck in the morning, enjoy, and come back. And that kind of opened my eyes to opportunities are with us. I mean, this is a person, they did not need, the local flights arrangement. They had their own jets and everything. So they were saying, I mean, just tell us, we'll just be able to fly down and be able to enjoy, we will be able to leave you dollars. He's saying, when I'm here at Intercon, what opportunities do you give me? And he actually brought up the issue of, you have no malls. Which mall? By then we only had Salit. I was saying, I'm at Intercon, so where do I leave my dollars around? And it opened my eyes that there is so much that is yet to be done. So he also I remember I had his CDs, because after that conversation, by then we were dealing with CDs, so there was no YouTube. So I actually bought that was even speaking about strategic partnerships and all that, and I listened to it over and over again, just because I felt that it was really speaking to me. So those are some of the people that have really shaped my view and my even like been role models and all that. And if you look at all of them, they have enterprises that are named after them that you can really look up to. The values that every kingdom business entrepreneur needs to have, one is basically the biblical obedience things. We have talked about trust and honesty. We have talked about integrity. We have talked about excellence. We have talked about humility, and basically knowing that everything we do, we must represent a compassion for God's people. So what does that mean? Yes, there could be the business contractual aspect, but on the other hand, and I'll give you an example where someone has been unable to pay their rent. The normal industry practice is that an auctioneer will be called, the house will be locked, and even if you are evacuated, then you have to leave your things and all that. You decide that these are people, these are God's people as well. It's just that they are going through a season. And we are always reminded that, what did you do for the rest of this? So we have opted to extend grace a bit, but then have conversations. And if the conversation or if the situation seems that it is prolonged, then we get to a space where you say, I think it is in the best of your interest to actually change. Maybe God is actually asking you to change your lifestyle a little bit for a moment, so that you don't continue incurring this debt. And for that reason, we are going to not to ask this debt from you as you leave. You leave, Even if God allows you things to change, we will not even retain a thing of yours. Just look for some money. Don't pay as fast. When you get that small amount of money, move to a smaller, better place so that you are able to manage your life. And then should God come back, should God work in your situation and your situation improves, remember there was a debt you left here. Of course, I would tell you that most of the people never come back. But one or two have actually come back, some to our surprise. Where someone just went and we thought, that one, the life is really mixed up. And they went away. And then 1 year down the line, they call us and they tell us, we felt you're good to us and we want to pay off whatever we left behind. And so what do I summarize as the one thing that we need to keep? One of the, all things will be consistent. If you require honesty on this side, there will be honesty on this side. But one of the key things, especially on the kingdom side, is a compassion for people, showing God's love to people. Don't just look at people as customers. Look at people God has brought your way. For them to see God through you. Some of them don't even go to church, but they're saying, I think these people must be Christians. And that's someone who doesn't go to church is saying, the way they treat people, those guys, they are very devout Christians. So I think that's why they are able to extend this. So a compassion for people that is born out of knowing that the love you show is not just your own self-expressed love, but it's love that is coming from a space of your belief in Christ and showing a compassion for people that is born of God. So it is just being touching, giving that touch of a love that is born of God in your dealings makes all the difference. You don't look like you're always in a hurry to clinch a deal. You're like, if it's mine and God has ordained it for me, it is mine. Allow me to just give you a quick an example that happened to us. We once responded in the professional side to a tender that was requiring consultancy services of what we offer. And when we were evaluated according to some of these inside stories, we were the best. However, when the boss came, he said, because it's a private entity, so they're not tied down to things, they said they would want a big firm. And we were a small firm. So they said we would want the PwC, the big fours and all that, Deloitte, all those big fours. They would want a firm that has whatever. So they actually opted to give. Of course, the big firm charges top dollar. Now, this was what was interesting. The big firm approached us because they didn't have the full, experts in that area. And so we didn't even know who we were negotiating for the same assignment that we did until we signed off and we were okay with what, then they revealed who the client was, and we were like, I thought we had responded to it. So only when we got there, the amount that we negotiated with being a subcontract was more than what we had quoted as whatever. Yet we were, so I mean, to me it was, God has just a way of looking out for his children that, he decided, you are charging too little. Let me show you how you make money. So he actually literally, because you cannot say that there is anything I even did. They were referred, just God. So I actually earned more, but in a very different way that God just said, it can only be you, God. So that has really cemented that. Imagine just be under God's wings, and the rest will sort itself out. Even sometimes when you feel like you're losing, God will sort things out, and that has been very encouraging in my work. Impact. It's about what is this that will be remembered when I'm long gone. It is about having some quotations with the word Sam Kibara, the intentional father, the Christian business person who thrived in both family and in business, the Sam Kibara who impacted communities in economic empowerment, the father of intentional fatherhood. Those are some of the things I would love to, as what are the quotes that would follow me to my grave. And I've just turned 50, so I'm more focused on legacy. I'm more focused on what is this all life about. And I think for me, I'm becoming more reflective, and it's about people impact. It's about what remains after I'm gone. That's what for me is the summary of all this, that what the aspect of God giving us full life, my children will outlive me in the normal scheme of things if God gives us life. So I would want to leave behind a legacy of people who know God and they are able to employ themselves to the world as well. So I'm not sure that's one sentence, but there are many sentences that could be one sentence about what I summarize as being that impactful person that was the best father there could be, and also the best person in terms of economic empowerment for communities. Yes. The word I have for the entrepreneur who is seeking or who is trying to make a decision on serving vis-a-vis the expense or what goes with that. It is true, serving in ministry will call for time. It is true that it will call for resources, and it is true that sometimes it so seems like it's competing with our business aspects. But my advice to anyone today, or to you who is considering that, is that it is Him who gives us the ability to create wealth. For it is Him who is able to do immeasurably more than we can even imagine. For it is Him who opens floodgates. For me, I've seen what it is that work unto God. Go out and serve. The rest of the things will follow. God will work His way out in things. Just serve, just obey, and God will sort out all the other things. That will be my word for you today. Thank you.